Hello, Alex from Report
Hello.
from Media, and thank you so much for being on our show.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me.
So my first question, because I'm sure our audience will discover you with this interview, how would you like to present yourself to our French audience? Because you have also a lot of channels, you are doing a lot of work. So how would you present yourself?
I would say, to sum it up in one line, is a content creator that covers, either geopolitics and the development of China is my main focus. And when you mention China, you unravel a huge interview, and that's what we're about to do here today. So I would say everything China, whether it's geopolitics to business to cultural and tourism, I pretty much covered it all.
Okay, so you live in China since 5
Yes.
years now. My first question would be something that would be personal, but I think it's important since our listeners are from the West. What made you decide to go and live in China, and what were your first idea, your first view of what you were expecting to see in China?
Well, I've been traveling to China for almost 2.5 decades. Initially, it started out with curiosity about business opportunities. And back in the year 2000, when you were talking about manufacturing, whether it was import, export, electronics, or goods being made, China was the place to be. Just like 19 other thousand American and international companies have now placed some of their headquarters, or at least manufacturing distributions, out of these areas. And I initially arrived in the, I'll call it, the Silicon Valley of China, that is Shenzhen. And if you go back a little 35 years ago, it was a fishing village. Now it's a mega city with 20 million, and it's one of the big manufacturing hubs here in China. So initially, what drew me to China was the manufacturing, buying something, importing it, selling it to the consumer. That was the first part. And then in the last 5 or 6 years, I kept traveling here business-wise and started to recognize that this is a country that was very misunderstood by the West, very misunderstood. And taking my time and carefully selecting cities, I decided to come to a city called Chongqing, where I am now. And at the time, if you looked on Google, looked on Yahoo, looked on Bing, there was no information. And I thought, this cannot be possible. This is a city of 34 million people. Why is no one covering it? So I decided, you know what? Let's get into the media game. Let's pick up where we can educate people in business, educate them in culture and tourism, and let's go. And while I was doing that, the world went into a pandemic, and things got very interesting. And that will bring me on to the second part of this question. When we say I'm here 5 years, it was a rather interesting story, is because I had just started uploading to YouTube and recognized that firstly, the viewers were very curious about, Southwest China, the city I'm in, Chongqing. Once again, mega city, calculated as one of the most populous, densely populated cities in the world. And I started to gather a quick audience. Pandemic comes. I'm still putting out some of my content, and decided to be one of the first YouTubers to stream a broadcast from China. And the show you can see behind me there, it's called Let's Talk China, started to quickly bring in a very large audience. And I don't know if the audience can remember this, but during the start of this pandemic, China went through a very, very big image issue, and they were being attacked. I felt that the story was not properly told to the international community. We and a bunch of other content creators decided to get together, have a Sunday show, and we were kind of a voice, or we'll call it a town hall, for everything China. Well, it was closed down. Briefly after that, the Chinese media recognized that we had a big following, invited me to come to China, and now I'm here making productions, whether it's commercial, whether it's private productions, or working with the government here as well.
Mm. So let's dive in directly in the geopolitical subject. So we had an important declaration, I think, from Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, that was testifying in front of the House committee 2 days ago. And he confirmed the American view, or at least the view from the Trump administration, where he said that China wants to dominate the world. China is attacking America on its soil, especially on the fentanyl question, but also with the economical and technological struggle. What would you respond to and say to Kash Patel that said to the American public that China is now the main enemy of the Western world?
With all due respect to Kash Patel and his position at the FBI in the United States, it really boggles my mind that a man that has that much information, that much intelligence, really shows a lack of intelligence here in what's going on in China. I think it would probably be in his best, behavior to first interview some people that he could bring along with him over to China and have some constructive research here, sitting down with some of the government officials, talking about security issues. China's an open door, ready to talk, ready to, engage. This whole fear factor that China is dominating, want to take over the world, want to, bring in fear to the Americans. We're talking a country that has not been in a global conflict in almost 50 years. When China is protecting itself, sure, it has big military parades. It puts it on show for its people to understand that this country here of 1.4 billion, who just celebrated the 80 years of the Japanese bombings that blasted a city like I'm in, Chongqing, for 6.5 years into submission. That's not going to happen again. Now, China here is on defense. They are not offensive. They don't have 500, 600, 700 military bases like the Americans do around the world. And if you're watching, they are probably, America probably has a military base in your country, in your sovereign nation, dictating what can and can't happen. We just saw what happened in Qatar, and I don't need to remind the audience about that. But here again, the fear-mongering on China from, the FBI, the head of the FBI, I think is a little bit irresponsible, shows his lack of intelligence on, the diplomatic front. And again, I'll be clear, China is not interested in dominating. Yeah, they like business, and that's hard for a lot of people to take in when all they hear is, the click notes of communist country, authoritarian. To me, it's kind of comical.
Mm-hmm. So you talked about the 2025 China Victory Day parade, which was an impressive show on many aspects. We had the parade itself, militarily speaking, that was impressive. We had a huge display of technological innovations too, but also on the diplomatic side, we had Vladimir Putin that was there, but also Kim Jong-un from North Korea. What would you say, or how would you analyze this parade and the message that was given from China to the world? Because you were talking about the Chinese population, how it was a message for the population about the strength, but what would be the message for the world? Can we see that as something intimidating?
That is a very good question. And I would say most viewers are going to believe in the narrative that the Western media, Kim, Vladimir, President Xi, all together, the collusion, what is going on here? Is this a signal to the West? Actually, for our viewers here, if you are in a country, developing country, or a country under the thumb of the Americans, pay attention. Because these are the type of people that you need as allies coming up in, I would say not a unipolar world, but a multipolar world right now. Because we have seen just last week or the week before, the Americans allow a missile strike in Doha where they have an airport. planes can't get over airspace, especially when there's a U.S. airbase sitting in a country, and allow a certain other nation, we don't need to get into it, but to bomb people on a sovereign territory, or see the American military use its arms on potentially, we don't know, no judge or jury went out for boats in near Venezuela. Also, the U.S. government has a $50 million bounty on the head of a sitting president of a sovereign country in Venezuela. Now, who do you need as your friends? Well, you need China, you need, other collective countries that are working together. And that's what, I would say China is really famous for now, is their Belt and Road initiative, where it's connecting countries to do business together. Look at the 19th round of sanctions that have been put on Russia. They've pretty much been banned everywhere, taken off the SWIFT banking system, been sanctioned into an oblivion. Now, that technique used to work by America, but now when you got partners like China that can see past it and say, yeah, there is a territorial issue between two countries, the Ukraine and Russia, but that's their business. When it comes to business or B2B with China, they can look past the geopolitical issues and help out countries that normally would be crushed.
We are also in a situation with a lot of tensions between USA and China related to the tariffs. Since you live in China, what can you say about the economical situation, especially since that Trump is the new president and decided to take many actions around the world, but also against China?
Well, here is where I think our audience, we can give them credit, because they understand that a tariff is a tax on the American people. I think the international community and the international viewers now understand that if they don't have a tariff on their items and they're importing it, then their country is pretty much clear of it unless they're doing business with America. Let me kind of break that down for you. If you're an American right now and you're in business and you're doing business in the United States, pretty much I would say that you have to import from every country to maybe make your good, because the manufacturing, not to say that it's not in America anymore, but the manufacturing has moved on. They've moved into a service economy where I'll call it the Lego economy. You import pieces, you put them together, and that's why the Americans, they don't say they're manufacturing automobile plants. They call them assembly plants. So they are assembling pieces that are manufactured or built in other parts of the world. They put these pieces together, they export them, or they either sell them domestically and they make money for their companies. Now, what's happened is every single item that comes into the United States is tariffed. Outside of the United States, if you're from Britain or France or China or wherever, if you have no import tariffs, then your manufacturing, your people, your domestic market is not affected by it. And when we're talking about the US here in China, there's a lot of US outside this window here. There's a lot of Starbucks, KFCs, shopping malls, brands, Teslas are driving all over the place here. If China wanted to make it really difficult on the Americans, they could do it tomorrow morning. But they're playing the mature game here, where they're sitting back saying, all right, you want to tariff these items? Well, first of all, China as imports, not going to affect us at all. Exports? Okay, well, good luck getting that piece or brake pad or tires or whatever you need for that. Go ahead, harm your own economy, shoot your economy in the foot, and you've made yourself non-competitive. The other thing interesting, I think what a lot of people don't really understand is China's moved on from the, we'll call it the sweatshop image on what most people talk about. We are seeing highly precisioned manufacturing plants here. Why do you think the world's, or one of the world's largest manufacturer of mobile phones continues to have its product made here? Because the tooling is done well. The engineering is done well. Not to say that China's trying to take over. You got to remember, when those profits are made, for example, on an iPhone, those profits aren't staying here in China. Those are going to Cupertino, California, to the quarterly reports for the people that benefits the shareholders of Apple. So that's just one example. So China has moved on. They know that these tariffs do cause a bit of interruption, a bit of problems with some of their manufacturing here. But that's why they have a 5-year plan. They plan every 5 years here. And if your audience hasn't heard about it, if they haven't heard about the Belt and Road, the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, that's 154 countries that have been connected, whether it's logistics, whether it's business, whether it's banking. And if you haven't heard of WeChat Pay or Alipay, if you haven't had that in your country, it's probably coming. And that is a seamless way to send money to 154 nations right now and growing.